Hello, Lovelace. Welcome to today's science lesson, which continues our work on sound. And in particular, today, we're looking at frequency and pitch. Okay, so there's our LO for today. Can I understand frequency and pitch? Now, frequency for sound is how long the sound wave is. If you remember, we talked in a previous lesson about how sound was made. And it's basically when an object vibrates, it causes the particles in the medium it's in, so usually air, to vibrate as well. And those particles vibrate against each other, knocking against each other, and create a wave in the same way that if you dropped a pebble into a water, you will get a wave that spread out from that center point, getting gradually weaker and weaker. In the same way, sound gets weaker and weaker as it gets further away from the source. Okay, so the frequency is how long the sound wave actually is. So we've got two sound waves here. Now we've got this one where the waves are actually quite tightly packed together. Each single wave is quite short. And there's a single wave. Okay, we start at the bottom, we go up, over and back to the same point. So that's one single wave. Okay, and it's over, say, a short period of time. We've managed to squish lots of waves into the same amount of space. Okay, so this is what we call a short wave. Okay, because they're really, really quite tightly packed together. There's a lot in there. Okay, so there's a high number of waves in that space. So this is a high frequency wave. There's lots of them. Okay, the frequency of this wave, the number of times it appears, is high. So a high frequency wave, and that produces a higher sound. Okay, so the more waves we can fit into that distance, into that time, the higher the sound is going to be. So this will be quite a high note. Similarly, this bottom one is a long wave. We don't manage to fit too many into the same space. Okay, in fact, we can only get two in there. Okay, so this wave is quite long. There's only a low number of waves in that space, so it's got a low frequency. And a low frequency is a lower sounding note. Okay, so high frequency, a higher note, low frequency, a lower note. Now, the pitch of a sound is more a musical term rather than a scientific term. The pitch of a sound is just how we hear it. Do we hear a high note or a low note? So pitch and frequency are similar, but they're not quite the same. Frequency is more of a scientific word that can be measured, whereas pitch is simply how we hear it, whether we hear high or low. Okay? But they are connected. They are linked. So if a sound has got a high frequency, then it's also going to have a higher pitch. Because if it's got a high frequency, we're going to hear a higher note. So it's got a higher pitch. So although they're not exactly the same, they are connected. High frequency means a high pitch. And similarly, if a sound has got a low frequency, then it's going to have a low pitch. It's going to sound lower to our ears. Okay? So frequency can actually be measured scientifically using an oscilloscope, whereas pitch can't be measured quite so precisely, but they are linked. High frequency, a high pitch note, low frequency, a low pitch note. Now here we have 6 sound waves, so 6 images that you might take off an oscilloscope. What I'd like you to do is see if you can describe the sound that is being made. Okay? Now remember from previous session, the taller the sound wave is, then the louder it is. So the further away it is from that center line, the louder it is. Okay? So there are 6 descriptions, but which ones match those sound waves? Just have a minute and see if you can work them through. Okay, so the first one is low-pitched, loud sound. So low-pitched means that it should be quite a long wave. We're not going to get too many waves on the line. And then loud means it should be quite tall. So which one best fits that description? Well, there it is. It's that one there. So there's only, so we can say, not very many waves in there. So that means it's low-pitched. It's got a low frequency. But it's quite tall, which means it is quite loud. So that's a loud sound. Which one of these do you think is the high-pitched, quiet sound? So high-pitched, so a high frequency, means lots of waves, but then it's quiet. So not very tall wave. Which do you think? Yeah, it's going to be that one at the top. So there's lots of waves, but they're not very tall waves. So it's not very loud, but it is quite high-pitched. Now, the next one is noise. Now, noise is a funny word. We use it a lot because children do make lots of noise. But scientifically, what does it mean? Well, actually, it means, let's say, a collection of different frequencies. So we don't have a nice clean wave. It's all very jagged. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But that's the noise one. It's all very jaggedy, and it's not a nice clean wave. So there's your noise, a mixture of frequencies. The next one, low pitched and quiet. So low pitch, remember that's low frequency. So there's not a lot of waves, and quiet is, well, not very high. So that's going to be that one, very low frequency. Only get one complete wave there, one and a bit. And it's really, really not very tall at all, very short wave. So that's definitely low pitched and very quiet. Now this one, I just said a middle pitch. So a middling pitch, it's not very low, it's not very high, and it's just a nice pleasant sound. So it's a nice volume as well. So which of these sounds would you most want to listen to? Well, it's this one. So a nice middle, it's not too low, but it's not too high either. So it's just a nice middling sound, and it's not too loud. So that's probably a really pleasant sound to listen to. And then we're left with high pitch, loud sound. This would probably be a really, really annoying noise. Really high pitch. So it's got high frequency, lots of waves, and it's also really loud. So it should be a tall wave as well. It's this one. This one would be a really annoying sound, I'm sure, and will probably hurt your ears. Okay, but well done if you've got all of those. Great job. Now, most sounds are not actually pure. I've been showing you sound waves of pure sounds. Most of them are actually a mixture of frequencies and different sounds. So the wave on the left, this is a pure note. So these are the sorts of sound waves I've been showing you. So we get the idea of high frequency, low frequency, loud and quiet, and so on. So the wave on the left is a pure note. So the wave's really smooth. But the one on the right, that's probably more realistic, actually, of most sounds, because it's quite jagged. It's showing all the different frequencies that are usually mixed in with any sound that's made. So that's probably a more realistic sound wave. It's just a lot more difficult to understand. So a tuning fork is something that musicians use to tune their instruments. And so that's actually made to create a pure sound. So you can see the sound wave from a tuning fork, it's a pure note, really, really smooth wave there. Whereas most things, including musical instruments, don't produce pure sounds, because when you play them, you actually get a mixture of frequencies produced by the instrument. So a flute sound wave looks something like that, quite jagged there. A violin is really, really quite a jagged sound wave. Now, a violin played well can be a beautiful sound, but it's still a mixture of frequencies within the sound. So it's not a pure sound wave. So looking at pure sound waves like this helps us to understand what the shape means. So we can talk about the high frequency, the low frequency, the loud, the quiet, and so on. But the reality of sound is that most sounds are a mixture of frequencies. So the sound waves are a little bit of a mishmash like this. Right. Your task for today. Last week, I got you to build your own drum kit. Today, you're going to have a go at making your own bottle orchestra. Now, this might be something you've had a go at in the past already. You might have already say, so you know what it's all about, or maybe you haven't. But it's a bit of fun. Bit of fun to play around with the frequency of instruments, or in this case, bottles of water. You need to find yourself a small bottle. Now, if you can get a range of them, the same size, that would be great. In the image, we've got 5 of them. Now, they can be plastic or glass. It doesn't matter. Glass probably has a slightly better sound, but it works perfectly well with both plastic or glass. Okay. Now, if you can only find one, then you're going to have to try the different notes one after the other because you're going to have to keep changing the water level. If you can find a selection like this boy has, then you can have your full orchestra in front of you, all the different notes available to you straight away. So once you found your bottle or bottles, fill each one with a different amount of water. So you can see, this is colored water so we can see it. You don't need to worry about that. But you can see we're going up in steps a little bit more each time. And then have a go at blowing across the top of the bottle. Now, if you're not making a sound, just adjust the angle of the bottle. So adjust the angle you're blowing across until you get a sound. This is one of those where just a little bit of practice and you can get a wonderful sound. Okay, but you just need to keep fidgeting and trying and moving the bottle around until you get a nice sound. Okay. By changing the amount of water, the frequency of the note changes. So you get a different pitch of sound. So my question to you is, which has got the higher pitch? The bottle with more or less water? So in this image, would the higher note be the red bottle or the blue bottle? And then finally, can you create a tune? I heard some wonderful rhythms with the drum kit, but I have to be honest, I couldn't identify any tunes. Can you create a tune that we might recognize with a bottle orchestra? Okay. Have a go, have a bit of fun with it. Again, it'd be great to see some videos of your attempts. If you've only got the one bottle, then just try this idea of which has got the higher note, the more or less water. Okay. But that's it for today. Enjoy your task. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, look after those around you, and I will see you all very soon.